What's going on there, folks? Earthmaster here, jumping in on the live stream here for a quick update video on this February 9th, 2021. It's the date, about 5:40 p.m. West Coast time, and we got a pretty good earthquake swarm hitting the Southern California region. You can see on the bottom left-hand side of the screen this station called Barrett down there just northeast of San Diego, kind of picking up some of that activity going on down there around the Salton Sea region. Let's further investigate that a little bit closer on the scale here with the USGS map. All magnitudes here over the last 24 hours shows that pretty good cluster of quakes striking the region here. Now, we got some pretty good sized earthquakes popping off in that swarm as well. A couple upper threes to mention. It's kind of a notable earthquake there when it comes to upper threes there in that swarming activity. There's one that happened earlier, and we just had another one pop off there. 3.8 just a couple minutes ago. Now the swarm is in an area where we've seen quite a bit of swarming over throughout the years. This is kind of common, but always an increase in potential for earthquakes out here in the southern part of the state of California here, especially with the a lot of my longtime viewers know, and a lot of folks there in the earthquake departments know about this solid red line there indicating the major plate boundary called the San Andreas Fault. It's a major plate boundary between the North American plate to the east and the Pacific plate to the west here. And also this section right here, very capable of producing an upper 7 to potentially an 8.0 magnitude there when the big one strikes here. This is an area that has not seen any significant release of earthquake activity, significant pressure release, I should say, in quite some time. It's the next one to go when it comes to sections of the San Andreas Fault here. I think the majority of scientists and geologists agree that this one's very capable of producing some major damage in the Southern California region. So definitely with that being said there, with the swarm going on just about 3 miles to the south, maybe 5, okay, we'll count every centimeter there. Potentially about 5 miles there to the north of this current swarming activity, you got the San Andreas Fault, okay? Most of this activity occurring on the Brawley seismic zone, which is pretty much an extensional fault system, okay, of the San Andreas Fault. One and the same, somewhat, if you want to look at it from a perspective of land mass and land views, just an extension with a different name. You got the Imperial Fault System down here. Either way, a very scary area to be in if this thing decides to release some major pressure. Also 1.4 up there. We've been getting quite a bit of earthquake activity. If you take a look at the broader scale of things here, all around the Pacific Ring of Fire, through South America and into the El Salvador area, Panama region also getting in on some of the action. Including some oddball activity over here towards the southern plains. But North America, western part, definitely seen a major increase in earthquake activity, as well as the uptick in Nevada. That was pretty quiet, you know. If you remember, if you watched my last update video, there was a time, a couple days there, where we seen no earthquake activity at all in Nevada. That has since picked up big time throughout the West Coast and into the Nevada area. Taking a look at the region here in the Salton Sea area a little bit closer, folks. Shows a prior cluster here, a little bit older earthquake activity, but still within the last 24 hours. And check out this new swarming. All these red earthquakes there are indicative of the last hour of earthquake activity. So we've got a migration, if you will. Not just one or two migrations of earthquakes, but it seems as though the entire swarm has moved to the northeast and towards the north. This is something to watch very closely, as if we see some major swarming up here, I say within about a mile, 2 miles of the San Andreas Fault, I would be on guard big time if we start to see that. And who knows? All it could take is just a simple swarm such as this that could trigger that big one on that San Andreas Fault. So we're going to issue a earthquake watch for the Southern California region after this update video. Should be in effect until the swarm dies down. I like to extend it roughly about 24 hours after the end of the swarm. but we will monitor this thing pretty closely. Quite a few ones, quite a few twos in there, but so far the largest going to be a 3.8, and that's 2 of them. Let's go ahead and go down or up to the 2.5, and you can see some of the larger quakes there striking in this swarming area near the Salton Sea. There's the 3.8s, and oddly, depth of this about 3.8 kilometers below surface. Most of these other quakes roughly the same. We are seeing a little bit of deeper movement out there, and that could be indicative of some potentially, well, large-scale movement in this area, especially if we see the depth of these start to turn variable. This 1.4, which is kind of away from the swarm, was about 10 kilometers below surface there. But let's see, what do we got? There's another one, 9.4. We're seeing some of the deeper movement away from the confined area of the swarming. Here's another 8.1. This one's kind of in that older swarming area, but still some deep movement progressing towards the San Andreas Fault here at the southern section. Be on guard, folks. Looks like we could be in for some interesting activity here pretty soon. Historical, folks. No, nobody. You don't need anyone to tell you that Southern California is a major seismic hazard when it comes to earthquake activity, and past historic activity shows that, especially around the Southern California region and the area of the Salton Sea. We've seen quite a bit of swarming throughout the years in this region. But each time we get a swarm, all it takes is that potential one to trigger the big one in this area. So definitely be on guard here. There was something I was going to check here, and I completely lost focus. Gosh darn it. Okay. Yeah, I lost, for some reason I lost track. I'm not for sure what happened there. Anyway, the rest of the region, Southern Cal, San Jacinto Fault area, definitely seen an increase in earthquake activity as well. And also the continued little swarming down here near the Yuma, is that what it's called, or Yuha? Or no, that's the Elsinore Fault system, and the, let's see here, let's see if I can zoom in here to this specific fault. Yuha Wells Fault, that's right. This area has seen a little bit of earthquake activity over the past couple weeks there. There was, let's see, where did that one go? Oh, that's right, towards Ridgecrest area. And in between the Garlock Fault system, which is this system right here, it's kind of a shear fault system that runs opposite of the normal north to south. This kind of runs east to west, west to east, southeast to west. You get it. You guys can see that line right there indicating the fault system, the shear fault system here. This area definitely, I think it could produce a major quake. If we see a quake on the Garlock Fault, no doubt that could trigger the big one on the south end. Or, potentially, we could see a major earthquake on the San Andreas Fault, which could also trigger the Garlock Fault system, which is capable of producing some significant earthquakes as well. Anyway, this earthquake right here, 2.0, kind of out there, kind of in an odd area, but shows the increase of pressure out here, folks. It's odd. It's kind of squeezed in this area, if you will. 2.0 is not a big earthquake, but it's kind of deep for this region, 19.1 kilometers. Ridgecrest seen a little increase in earthquake activity. And the earthquake in Nevada, nothing major to write home about, but it has definitely picked up after an extended period of quiet activity. Also, the creeping section of the San Andreas Fault, seen some movement as well. Overall, a big picture showing dynamics of the plate tectonics out here. Definitely in action there with the movement we're seeing today. So be on guard for potential further activity. Some movement up here northeast of Mount Hood volcano. Not at the summit, roughly about 10 miles away or so. 3.5 to trigger a couple aftershocks there, 1.4 and a 1.5 in that vicinity. Other areas up there, a couple small microquakes up there in Washington. Idaho seeing a renewed increase in earthquake activity. Quite a few twos in this region, a couple mid twos, as well as some earthquake activity outside of Yellowstone National Park. West Yellowstone showing some activity, and also inland as well. Let's go ahead and check that out at the Yellowstone seismograph stations there, and you can kind of see the little swarming activity in the northwest part of the park, right around Maple Creek, Holmes Hill area. These are seismographs over the region of Yellowstone. You got the caldera of the supervolcano there at Yellowstone National Park in the outline, black outline right there. It is common to see some swarms. It's been a while since we've seen any major swarming, so it will be interesting to see where this leads. Yeah, you can see a couple of those twos there that were showing up. I believe those were twos, right? Let's see here. Yeah, 2.2. And a couple ones in there as well, and some microquakes. Those are the ones showing up here. But also these are much smaller microquakes popping up on the scale. Also down here that the USGS has not reported. So overall probably about a good 10 or 15 earthquakes within this region over the last day. What else? Oregon, pretty quiet, aside from the Mountain Hood activity. Oklahoma, underneath a whole bunch of cold Arctic air. Out here in White City, New Mexico, these guys have seen a little bit of increase in earthquake activity. You can check out the last 7 days of 2.5 and above. Shows that region getting struck by quite a few earthquakes. And these are kind of deep out there as well, about 12 kilometers for that 4.0. As far as any fracking operations out there, I'm not for sure if there is, but we'll go ahead and check that out real quick. Maybe some underground tunnels or whatnot going on out there. There's definitely some fracking operations. The fracking operations show up very distinctly as little squares on the map. And zooming in a little bit closer, you can see the ponds and whatnot. These are all fracking operations. There's a good, looks like maybe 20 or 30 operations out here. So potentially these could be fracking earthquakes underneath the 4.0. Specifically, I don't see anything within 500 feet. But if we back up a little bit, the closest one up here to the north in that fracking operation, a few thousand feet or so from that area, and a whole bunch of workers out there making some big time money with the fracking operations. Checking back out here, let's go back to the normal quake map here. Not a whole lot to report to the east. Some microquakes here in Oklahoma and up through potentially Arkansas region. I do want to show you guys the area of seismic hazard. Okay, this is a map that people need to pay attention to when it comes to seismic activity and seismic hazard here in the United States. There's other areas, right, but they're just not mapped. Only for the 48 here from the USGS. So major area for some movement. Right, see that swarm right smack dab in that red area. Of course, as I mentioned, the southern section of the San Andreas Fault extends through this area, so there's no doubt that it should be in the red. Also, that little earthquake that struck out there around the Arkansas, Tennessee area, right smack dab in a major seismic hazard there called the New Madrid Fault System. That's definitely something to watch as well. It's been pretty quiet. This is a map you want to pay attention to. Other earthquakes can and do occur outside of these major seismic hazard areas, but this is the areas for potentially damaging earthquakes in the near future. Let's get rid of this here real quick. Rest of the region, as far as globally goes, a pretty good size in uptick over here towards the Pacific Ring of Fire. Off the coast of Japan and whatnot, over towards South Korea as well. Quite a few 4s and 5s kicking off. No major earthquakes to report at the moment, but definitely be on guard, folks. There's a little earthquake out there in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. There in South Africa region. About a 4.5 striking that area. I don't believe we have the tremor map updated along the Cascadia subduction zone. This does show the 9th, but let's go ahead and check out the 8th real quick. And at 620, hold on a second here. Okay, so I'll be darned. It looks as though they've updated it already, so that's pretty cool. That's pretty quick. Normally we have to wait till about 7 or so, my time, for it to show the activity. I'm going to show you guys real quick. 562 epicenters. Once again, folks, here's that migration that some of the geologists were talking about, the tremor folks, about that potential migration to the south in an area where we've already seen in the past, well, back in October, we had already seen some major slow slip ETS events. There's slow slip movement along the Cascadia subduction zone that has since migrated back into that region. So some uncertainty as to what's completely going on here. A lot of folks say this is normal. Well, it is normal when it comes to the every 14-month episodic tremor slip, right? ETS, slow slip event, but it hasn't been 14 months since the last event. So it is out of the normal, out of the ordinary. Let's go ahead and go back and check out how many tremors we've had here since, what's a good date to go back? Let's go back the last, I'm okay with the last 2 weeks, right? Well, that's not even quite 2 weeks. Let me add that back on there. We'll go from the 25th to February 7th. Well, no. Let's go back. Let's go to the 9th. How come we're not going to the 7th? I don't know why it's not letting me. Okay, that's kind of odd. But, yeah, let me try this one more time. I'm not for sure what I'm doing wrong here. Oh, maybe I made a... Hold on a second here. Let me get this right. 25th. I could have done it up here. What am I doing? 25th to the... Oh, my gosh. Okay, for whatever reason, it doesn't want... I can't figure it out. It might be user error. Who knows? Anyway, check out the amount of ETS, a slow slip event going on out here, folks. 6,901 epicenters, okay, over the last 2 weeks, roughly about the 2 weeks. We do need to add on the 600 and something 600 and something tremors each day, because this only goes to the 7th, right? We have to include today's tremor and yesterday's tremor, which definitely adds another 1,000 on here. So we're probably looking at a lot. Definitely well over 7,000, probably looking at 7,500 or so, folks, of tremor. And it's still mostly confined into the Vancouver Island up there and stretching now into parts of the Pacific Northwest. Now, this is not earthquake activity at the surface, but down dip, downstream of the Cascadia subduction zone. The Juan de Fuca plate subducting underneath the North American plate. And, of course, you got the locked area known as the Cascadia subduction zone, the locked area of it, sitting off the coast of the States here and into parts of Vancouver Island, or just off the coast. Major player when it comes to producing the world's greatest earthquakes and tsunamis. So, that's a lot of movement, folks, over the last couple weeks. And it has been extending all the way, for the most part, along the entire section of the Cascadia subduction zone. We have not seen too much surface quaking. Let's go ahead and bring this back here. We'll check out the activity. Potentially inland, right? When you're looking at a plate, right, the Juan de Fuca plate subducting, going down underneath this North American plate, the bigger plate, you got to remember that, well, not only that plate is going to be melting once it gets further down, it also applies and kind of potentially adds quakes above it. Let me see if I can zoom in here and get this other magnitude. What was that? 3.5. Okay. It's a little deeper quake. Actually, a lot of these quakes here are a little bit on the deeper side. So potentially what we're looking at is surface quakes roughly at the surface, but 5-6 kilometers, hitting or striking in areas of weak crust due to the continued subduction over here of the Juan de Fuca plate. And that tremor plays a major part as that plate is moving downstream, down underneath this plate. It ultimately will potentially apply or could create pressure towards the surface. And I believe that's what we're seeing right here with some of the earthquake activity in Oregon. I don't believe this is associated with Mount Hood. Let me check out the satellite view real quick. Got the beautiful Mount Hood over here to the southwest by about 5-6 miles or so. And most of this earthquake activity occurring here within this little valley. Check out that little old lava spill right there, looks like. Out here in this region. I don't think these guys do any type of fracking operations up there. Oregon's a very... let's see here. Yeah, it looks like just a lot of farms and whatnot out there in this area of Oregon. So if we want to check the Mount Hood activity, we can go over here to the tremor map, volcanic seismic activity, Mount Hood, and we can pick up, this is old tremor or old earthquake activity over the past 2 weeks or so. So we'll go ahead and check out this seismograph station here, see if it'll let us. It's kind of north of Mount Hood. And let's see here. This should show, yep, there we go. See, very distinctly showing that 3.5 that struck to the northeast of Mount Hood, about 5 miles or so. So very well defined for that earthquake right there, that 3.5. And that seismograph station that we picked up is probably, right around here. So the one that I'm showing you guys on that screen, roughly halfway between the volcano there and the epicenters of those earthquakes. Where did it go? Okay. So yeah, aside from that, I don't see any type of tremor, any type of other earthquake activity there at Mount Hood, but we can double check at a closer seismograph station there, right at the summit of Mount Hood at Palmer Lift. Go ahead and go back here. These guys, it looks like they have, there's that 3.5 showing up there. So a little bit further away, but still very distinct on this seismograph station. No other earthquakes to report or that are visible near Mount Hood. So that's a good sign, but I believe it's just purely a little bit of plate tectonics there due to the massive amount of tremor that's occurring at the Cascadia subduction zone there. So once again, well over 7,000 epicenters here. You got to remember yesterday's date and today's date, 600, roughly about 600 epicenters of tremor on each day. So that number plus a bunch more. And so what does it mean? Well, it means that there's a lot of pressure, a lot of movement being applied in this area, obviously. So you put this movement that we're seeing up here along the Pacific Northwest and into Northern California, along with the activity that's occurring in Southern California and throughout the region here and Nevada. And it paints a picture of potentially seeing some larger movement out here. It's something to watch, folks. I always get a little bit on the excited and nervous side whenever we see a massive amount of tremor along the Cascadia, along with some intense earthquake swarming in Southern California. It's definitely something to watch very, very closely, folks. So, I'm trying to think here what else I needed to show. It's let's see here. I think that's it. So be on guard. it's really hard to pinpoint exactly where we could see activity. You know, everyone wants to know, well, where, you know, forecast the earthquake. Where? You know, I don't do earthquake forecasting on here. Kind of look at areas of heightened activity and historical tremor. You know, well, recent historic tremor here, recent tremor, and you got to put both of them together along with the activity we're seeing on the Intermountain West here to potentially paint that picture of, you know, some larger movement taking place here soon. And you can't necessarily rule out the quiet areas of the San Andreas Fault. But of course, and again, this area of the San Andreas Fault has been very quiet for a very long time. So, just be on guard, folks. Keep an eye on, you know, this channel will provide update videos and whatnot should something else happen. But for now, we'll definitely put on a earthquake watch for the West Coast here. Kind of something I do whenever we see heightened earthquake activity. Let's see what we got here. Looks like, okay, so because of all the swarming along the West Coast, a lot of the earthquake counts disappear off the globe. So I need to raise that number a little bit to get the last 24 hours of earthquake activity. Not really manipulating numbers here, but just adding how it should be. As you've seen on the 24-hour USGS flat scale map, the earthquake activity that was here. Once again, that pulls, for whatever reason, the Earthquake 3D program pulls other earthquakes off of the globe whenever we see an intense earthquake swarm in anywhere in the world. So now we're back at where we should be for earthquake counts on the globe. Let's see, and that station there in Barrett, California, Southern California region, not British Columbia there, but Barrett, California. The BHE station is a station to monitor for seismic activity there around the Salton Sea area. Not Barrett Spur, but this Barrett station right here, BHE station, is right around the epicenter, not directly over the epicenter, but within the vicinity to pick up earthquake activity there in Southern California. So, all right, guys, I think there was more I wanted to say, but anyway, be on guard, stay safe. We will chat you guys a little bit later.